A poor waitress called the Alpha King. His son was found unconscious in the street. Rain fell in cold, heavy sheets, drumming against the cobblestones of the city streets. The lanterns flickered in the wind, casting golden pools of light among shadows that moved like whispers. Leora's hands were sore from hours of cleaning tables in the small, dim tavern tucked between tall, leaning buildings. Her apron was damp from spilled water, and her hair stuck to her forehead. Yet she moved with practiced speed, weaving between drunken patrons and trays of food. A smile plastered on her tired face. Life in the city was hard. Every coin earned was a battle. Every night survived was a small victory. Leora had long learned that survival meant keeping her head down and avoiding trouble. Trouble, after all, had a way of finding those who least expected it. Tonight, trouble arrived in the form of a crowd gathering in the marketplace outside. From her window, Leora could see people shouting and pointing, umbrellas forgotten in the rain. Curiosity prickled at her, but fear told her to stay away. She should have listened. A sudden gasp tore through the crowd. A figure lay sprawled across the wet stones, his clothes soaked, his face pale and twisted with unconscious pain. He was young, and there was something familiar about the way people whispered, something fearful, something reverent. The murmurs reached Leora's ears. "Psst! The prince, the Alpha King's son," someone said. Leora's heart stuttered. The Alpha King was a man whose power touched every corner of the kingdom. His family was both feared and admired, wrapped in legend and whispers of curses. For a poor waitress like her, seeing his son like this was beyond imagination. Yet there he was, lying in the mud, alone except for the crowded, gawking eyes of the marketplace. Something stirred inside her. Perhaps it was courage, or perhaps it was simple human compassion. Without thinking, she pushed through the crowd, ignoring the shocked cries of onlookers. Kneeling beside the young man, she felt the cold rain on her hands as she touched his arm. His skin was shockingly warm under her fingers, and a low groan escaped his lips.
"Stay with me," she whispered, trying not to tremble.
Bah! His eyes fluttered open. They were striking, golden, almost glowing in the dim light. Leora blinked, unsure if her mind was playing tricks on her. He coughed and shivered, struggling to sit up, and his gaze fell on her. "You, who are you?" he asked, voice rough and weak. I'm Leora," she said softly, helping him to his feet. "You're hurt. We need to get you somewhere safe." The prince, Kyle, she had heard the name whispered, looked around, panic and confusion mixing in his eyes. No, they can't. They can't know I'm here. Before she could ask who they were, a shout rose from the crowd. City guards pushed through, their armor clinking, faces stern. "Step away from the prince," one shouted. Leora's heart raced. She knew that touching royalty was forbidden. A simple citizen interfering with the prince could be punished harshly. But she could not leave him here. "Please," she begged, gripping his hand. "I can help you." Kale's gaze softened almost painfully, and for a moment the arrogance of a royal heir melted into raw vulnerability. "Then help me," he whispered. "Please, don't let them see me." With careful steps, she guided him toward a narrow alley, pressing him against her small frame to shield him from the guards. The rain soaked them both, and the streets became slippery and treacherous. Leora's heart pounded, not only from fear but from the strange pull she felt toward him. It was a pull she could not explain, as if the universe itself had conspired to place them together in that moment. Finally, they reached a small, abandoned cart behind the tavern. Leora helped Kale sit, holding a rag to his bruised face. He winced, and she felt a pang of helplessness. Bress, who did this to you? She asked quietly. I don't know. Shadows. People I trusted. They. His voice trailed off, and his golden eyes seemed to darken as though something unseen pressed against them. Best. Leora felt a chill run down her spine. There was something not quite human in the way he spoke, something ancient and dangerous hidden behind his youth. She swallowed hard, but her resolve did not waver. I'll stay with you, she said, gripping his hand again. You're not alone. He looked at her then, really looked, and she felt her chest tighten. There was an intensity in his gaze, a mixture of fear, anger, and longing. You shouldn't be here, he said. You don't belong in this world of mine. And yet, she whispered, I am here, and I won't leave. They stayed in silence, the rain washing over them, until the distant sounds of the city faded into a muted rhythm. Break. Slowly, Kale leaned back, closing his eyes, and Leora felt a strange warmth emanating from him, almost as if the life within him was fragile and precious. Night deepened, and the city seemed to hold its breath. Leora knew they could not stay hidden forever. The guards would return, the palace would demand answers, and Kale's enemies would not rest. But for this brief moment, it was just the two of them, caught between fear and something unspoken. Suddenly, Kale stirred, his golden eyes opening wide.
He reached for Leora, not with command, but with need. There's something.
In me, he whispered. I felt it awaken when you touched me. I don't understand it. Best. Leora's hand trembled, but she did not pull away. Then we'll understand it together, she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her heart. He swallowed hard, as though her words had anchored him to reality. Be careful, he said, his voice low. If they find you here, if the court knows, it will not end well for you. I am not afraid, she replied. Not of them. Not of anything. I will protect you. For a moment they simply stared at each other, the rain falling around them like silver threads in a dark sky. In that glance, Leora felt something ancient, something unspoken, the stirrings of a bond neither time nor fear could sever. And then, as if the world itself agreed, a shadow passed over them. Kale's eyes flared golden again, brighter this time, and a whisper carried through the air, almost like a voice from another world. But She is the one! Leora gasped, stepping back, fear mingling with awe. Bay. The one? She asked, her voice barely more than a breath. Kale did not answer. His face was pale, his body trembling with something beyond pain. And then, without warning, he collapsed into her arms. She caught him, holding him tightly as the rain poured down, her heart racing. For the first time, she realized the weight of what she had done. The prince, the son of the Alpha King, was in her care, and something dangerous, something powerful, had awakened in him because of her. Burst. Somewhere in the city, the faint echo of footsteps sounded. Guards! They were coming. Leora's heart pounded as she looked down at Kale. His golden eyes closed in a restless sleep, and she made a decision. She would not leave him. Not now. Not ever. The storm outside seemed to answer her resolve, lightning streaking across the sky, as if the heavens themselves had marked this night. And in that moment, Leora knew her life, and the life of the Alpha King's son, were bound together by fate, by danger, and by something neither of them yet understood. The city held its breath. And so did they. The city streets were quieter now, but the storm's anger had not yet passed. Rain dripped from the palace towers like cold tears, and the guards patrolled the stone courtyards with eyes sharp as blades. Leora followed silently behind the captain of the guard, her wet clothes clinging to her, heart pounding. Kale, still weak from the earlier attack, leaned on her slightly, his golden eyes flicking around nervously. The palace loomed above her, its walls glittering with gold in the occasional flash of lightning. To a common girl like Leora, it was like stepping into a dream she had never dared to imagine. A world of wealth, power, and danger. And now she was being pulled into it, against her will, because she had touched a prince's life. "You must understand," the captain said as they entered the main hall. "No harm can come to the prince. Anyone who interferes, anyone at all, will answer to the king himself." Leora nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She had not come here for reward or recognition. She only wanted Kael to live. Kale himself was silent, his pride warring with the vulnerability she had glimpsed earlier.
The guards brought him to a private chamber, a large candlelit room with walls lined in tapestries depicting the Alpha King's victories.
Leora helped him sit on a carved chair, feeling the odd mix of fear and exhilaration that came with being so close to royalty. "You must leave," the captain said. "Bish. The king wishes to speak with you." Leora hesitated. "Leave him?" she asked. Her voice was soft, but firm. "He cannot be left alone. Something is wrong. He is not ordinary." The captain frowned, but before he could answer, Kale spoke. "Bay." His voice was low but carried an authority that made her shiver. "Let us stay," he said. The captain's eyes widened, but he obeyed, though reluctantly. Leora remained, standing near the doorway, feeling her heartbeat in her throat. Kael looked at her then, his golden eyes serious. "You don't belong here," he said. "This world...
"It is not for someone like you. And yet," she replied softly, "I am here."
Bis, and I will not leave you." He let out a low sigh, as if the weight of the world pressed on his shoulders. "You have courage," he said quietly. "Perhaps foolishness, perhaps both. I do not know how to thank you for what you did, Be."
"I don't want thanks," Leora said. "I only want you to be safe."
For a moment, silence filled the room. Only the crackling of candles and the faint patter of rain outside broke the stillness. Then Kale's eyes flickered with something darker, a shadow lurking beneath his golden gaze. "The curse," he whispered. "It stirs when I am weak." "You felt it, didn't you?" "Felt what?" Kale looked away, his jaw tight. "Pay." "I do not understand it myself," he admitted. "Something in me awoke when you touched me. It is not human, yet it is part of me. I fear what it might do." Leora stepped closer, hesitating only a moment before placing a hand over his.
"Whatever it is," she said, "we will face it together."
"I am not afraid." For the first time, Kale smiled faintly, though it did not reach his eyes. "You are brave," he said. "Brave and foolish. I suppose those qualities are necessary in this place." Their conversation was interrupted by a sharp knock on the door. A courtier entered. a tall, thin man with a face as sharp as a blade. His eyes flicked over Leora with suspicion, then to Cale with a mix of awe and fear. "Your Highness," he said, bowing deeply, "the king wishes to see you immediately. There are matters of great urgency." Cale stood slowly, leaning on Leora's hand for support. "Bear, I will attend," he said. "And stay here," he added, glancing at her. "But do not leave." The courtier's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Leora remained behind, alone in the chamber, her mind spinning. Rasp. She had entered this palace to save a prince, and now she found herself part of a world she barely understood.
Hours passed in silence.
The flickering candlelight cast long shadows on the walls, and Leora felt the palace's eyes on her, even when no one was present. She wandered to the window and looked down at the city below. It was quiet, too quiet. The storm had passed, but the shadows lingered, curling along the streets like living things. Suddenly the door opened. Cale returned, alone, his expression unreadable. Leora's heart leapt at the sight of him. "They know more than they tell us," he said, closing the door behind him. "The king, he knows something is wrong. He suspects the curse may have touched me." Bay. Leora's hand instinctively reached for his. "Then we must find a way to stop it," she said. Cale shook his head. "It is not so simple. This curse, it has lingered in my family for generations. It seeks power, yes, but also weakness. It will not be broken easily. And now, it stirs in me because of you." Her heart skipped. "Because of me?" He nodded, his gaze intense. "I do not know why, but when I was unconscious, I felt it respond to your presence. You are different from anyone I have ever met." Leora swallowed. She had always felt ordinary, powerless, unnoticed. And yet here was a prince telling her she was extraordinary. Fear and pride warred within her. Cale stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I should not feel drawn to you," he said. "Brash. And yet, I cannot stop it. Something in me wants you near, even as danger follows." Breath. For a moment, their hands brushed again.
A spark seemed to pass between them, and Leora felt a warmth spreading through her chest.
But it was not comfort. It was something deeper, something older, like the pulse of a hidden power that had lain dormant for centuries. I don't understand," she said, her voice trembling. "What is happening to you?"
Cale shook his head. "I do not know."
"But it is dangerous. I cannot let anyone, including myself, lose control. And yet, when I am near you, I feel calm, safe, and terrified."
Leora's pulse quickened. "Then we must be careful," she said softly.
"Together, we will face whatever comes." A sound at the door startled them both. A quiet but deliberate knock. Cale's eyes narrowed. Beth. He moved toward the door but paused, glancing at Leora. "Stay here," he ordered. The door opened, and the king himself entered. His presence filled the room, commanding and cold. Leora felt her knees go weak under his gaze. He looked at Cale with a mixture of suspicion, pride, and concern. Then his eyes fell on her. "And who," the king said, his voice echoing like a command, "is this girl?" "Father, she saved me." "She helped me when I was in danger." The king studied her, and Leora felt as if he were peeling away her very thoughts. "A commoner aiding the prince," he said slowly. "This is unusual and dangerous." "I only did what was right," Leora said, her voice steady despite the fear twisting in her stomach. The king's eyes narrowed. "Bet."
Right or not, her actions have consequences. The palace.
"Bad. The court. They will not forgive this." Kale stepped forward.
Father, she saved my life. That is enough.
She should not be punished. The king's gaze softened slightly on Kale, then hardened on Leora. "You will remain in the palace for now," he said, "under watch. The court must know you, and you must understand the rules of this place."
"Yes, Your Majesty," Leora said, bowing her head. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to stand tall.
Once the king left, Kael turned to her. "It is not safe here," he said quietly, "but neither is the city. The court watches closely, and the curse, it grows stronger." "I cannot let you leave. Not now." "Then I will stay. I will help you." Their eyes met, and in that look was something unspoken. A bond forged in danger, trust, and an unexplainable pull between them. But even as they stood together, shadows moved beyond the windows, whispers threaded through the halls, and the palace seemed to breathe around them, alive with secrets and power. Kael's lips curved into a faint smile, but his golden eyes were wary. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we must start understanding the curse. It will not wait, and neither can we, Bess." Leora shivered, not from cold, but from anticipation and fear. The palace was beautiful, but it was also a cage filled with secrets, danger, and power she did not yet understand. And somewhere deep within she knew that staying close to Kael was both her greatest choice and her greatest risk. And as the night deepened, a faint, chilling whisper echoed through the palace halls, carried on the wind. "The one, she is here." Leora's heart froze. Kael turned, his golden eyes wide with alarm. "Someone knows," he whispered.
And they are coming. Outside, the city slept, unaware of the storm that had returned, not of rain, but of something older, darker, and far more dangerous.
Leora's hand found Kael's again. "Whatever comes," she said, "we face it together." Kael nodded, but his jaw tightened.
Together, he agreed. For now.
Bad. Together. The palace was alive with shadows, whispers, and secrets. And in the dark corners, forces beyond their understanding waited, patient and hungry. The palace walls loomed behind them, golden and cold, as Leora and Kael walked through the misted streets toward the forest. The city, usually alive with the sounds of merchants and carriages, now lay quiet under a gray, sorrowful sky. The rain had stopped, but the air carried a damp chill, and every shadow seemed to move as if alive. Kael moved with purpose, though his steps were careful. The earlier attacks had left him weak, and the curse that haunted his blood stirred with every step. Leora, though frightened, stayed close, her hand brushing against his for reassurance. Neither spoke for a time. The silence carried their thoughts like fragile glass between them. "The forest is cursed," Kael said at last, his voice low.
Ah! Not in the way you think. It is alive.
And it remembers those who enter. Vibration. Every fear, every secret will rise against us. She had never been far from the city, never faced creatures that whispered in the wind or saw shadows move on their own.
I am not afraid,
she said. Her voice was steady, though her heart pounded. I will face it with you. Pierre looked at her, and for a moment the arrogance of a prince fell away, revealing vulnerability that few ever saw. You do not understand, he said. This is not a game. Many have entered these woods and never returned.
They are consumed by their fears.
By themselves. I am not like them, Leora said softly, her gaze firm. I will not let fear control me, and I will not leave you. His golden eyes lingered on hers. Something shifted there, a silent acknowledgement of the bond growing between them, forged by danger and trust. Cale took a deep breath and led her to the edge of the forest. Trees taller than towers reached for the sky, their twisted limbs like skeletal fingers against the dim light. Fog clung to the roots and swirled around their ankles. As they stepped into the forest, the air seemed to thicken. Each footstep was heavy, as though the ground itself resisted their passage. The sounds of the city faded, replaced by whispers carried on the wind, voices that spoke of forgotten sorrow, hidden regrets, and unfulfilled promises. Leora felt a shiver run down her spine. This is not real, Cale murmured, reading the fear in her eyes. The forest will try to trick us. Breath. Remember, it feeds on doubt and despair. They walked in silence, moving carefully through the twisted roots and fog. Then, without warning, a figure appeared on the path ahead. It was Cale, or at least it looked like him, golden eyes gleaming, but the expression was cold, cruel. Cale? Leora asked, her voice trembling. The figure smiled, a cruel, unnatural curve of lips. Do you trust me, Leora? It whispered.
Do you trust him?
Leora stepped back, heart hammering. This is not real, she said, gripping Cale's hand. His touch reassured her, grounding her in the truth. I trust you, she said firmly. No matter what the forest shows me, I trust you. The illusion wavered, then vanished, leaving Cale himself standing there, worry etched across his face. Best. Good, he said. The forest will test that. Inspiration. We must not falter. They continued deeper, and the forest seemed to breathe around them. Inspiration. Shadows shifted and whispers grew louder. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and roots erupted like serpents, curling toward them. Cale pushed Leora behind him, drawing strength from her presence even as he tried to shield her. Keep moving, he shouted. Do not look back. They ran, weaving through the roots and fog. Leora's heart raced, not just from fear, but from the thrill of being near Cale, the way his courage bolstered her own. They reached a clearing where the fog lifted, revealing a pool of still water. In its reflection, Leora saw herself, but older, weary, and broken. And beside her, Cale's reflection twisted into a monstrous version of himself, eyes glowing amber with rage and despair.
The forest shows what could be, Cale said quietly, gripping her hand.
It shows fears, futures, that may come.
We must not let it sway us. Leora took a deep breath, forcing herself to look straight into the reflection.
It is only a shadow, she said. It cannot define us.
Kyle nodded, pride and relief softening his expression. You are braver than I imagined, he said.
And yet, the worst is still ahead. The forest grew darker as they moved forward. The whispers became voices calling Cale's name, accusing him of failures and betrayals. Leora felt them too, whispering her own doubts, telling her she did not belong, that she was weak, that she could not protect him. Do not listen, Cale said, his voice fierce. We are stronger than this. Together. They pressed on, and soon they reached a clearing where a figure stood, draped in shadow. Its eyes were hollow, but it moved with the grace of a predator. Kyle stepped forward, his golden eyes glowing brighter. This is it, he whispered. The spirit of the curse. Leora's hand tightened around his. Fear surged, but she did not let go. Then we face it, she said, her voice unwavering. The spirit moved, and the ground shook. Shadows stretched, twisting into forms of people Cale had known, friends and family, all accusing him silently of sins he had not committed. Leora saw the strain on his face, the way he trembled as the weight of the curse pressed down on him. You must choose, the spirit said, its voice like wind through dead trees. Choose between yourself or the one who stands with you. Aye, he whispered, unable to finish. Trust me, Leora said, stepping forward, standing firm. We face this together. You are not alone. Something shifted in him then. He reached for her, and together they faced the spirit. The shadows screamed and twisted, but their hands remained clasped, their hearts beating in unison. Leora felt a warmth surge through her, a power she did not understand but instinctively knew she could wield. The spirit recoiled, hissing, and the shadows began to waver. Cale's golden eyes blazed brighter, not with anger, but with determination. I will not let it control me, he said. Not while she stands with me.
The curse recoiled, vanishing into the air like smoke carried on the wind. The forest fell silent save for the heavy breathing of the two of them.
Leora looked at Cale, seeing both relief and exhaustion etched into his features. You did it, she said softly. No, he replied, shaking his head. We did it. Together. For a moment, they stood in the clearing, the storm inside them quieting, the forest around them still and watchful. The bond between them, forged through danger and trust, felt unbreakable. Then Cale faltered, staggering backward. His hand flew to his chest, his eyes flashing with golden light. Leora caught him, fear gripping her heart. Cale, she shouted. What is happening? The curse, he whispered, his voice strained. It is not gone. It is changing. Stronger, darker, and it knows who is responsible.
Before she could ask, a shadow darted between the trees.
Leora felt a cold, unnatural presence brush her skin. The forest seemed to pulse around them, alive with something unseen, something hungry. Cale's eyes flared amber, and he gripped her hands tightly. We must leave, he said urgently.
It is coming, and it will not stop until it has what it wants. Oh.
The shadows grew, shapes twisting from the fog like claws reaching for them. Leora felt a chill run down her spine, but she did not let go of Kale. Together they ran through the forest, the whispers and shadows chasing them, the ground shaking beneath their feet. And then, as they reached a narrow path leading out, the shadows coalesced into a single figure, tall, dark, and impossibly still. Leora froze, heart pounding. Call pulled her behind him. "Do not let it touch you," he said, his voice fierce, golden light burning in his eyes. The figure moved forward slowly, a voice that echoed in their minds. "She belongs to me." And so does he.
Leora's hand found Kale's again.
"We face it together," she whispered. Kyle nodded.
"Together," he agreed. And with that, the forest seemed to grow darker still, the wind carrying whispers of a danger neither of them had fully understood. The trial was not over. The curse had only begun to awaken, and its hunger was far from satisfied. Breath. The forest seemed alive with shadows, each one moving as if it had a mind of its own. The wind whispered warnings in Leora's ears, carrying voices that were both familiar and alien. Somewhere deep among the twisted trees, the dark figure, the spirit of the curse, waited, patient and hungry. Its eyes glowed like coals, watching, waiting for a mistake. Kyle held Leora's hand tightly, golden light flaring from his eyes as he scanned the darkened forest. His body was tense, every muscle ready to fight. "Becked, stay close," he whispered. "It will try to separate us. It feeds on fear and doubt." Leora nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. But she could feel the pulse of the forest in her bones, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on them. And yet she refused to falter. She had promised Kale they would face this together, and she would not break that promise. The path ahead narrowed, twisted roots forming a tunnel that seemed to close in around them. Shadows moved within the trees, taking shapes that were both human and monstrous. Faces appeared in the bark, eyes full of accusation and sorrow. Leora shivered, but Kale's grip reassured her.
"It knows our fears," Kale said quietly.
"It will try to make us turn on each other, to break our bond."
"I will not let it," Leora said firmly. "Whatever it shows, we face it together."
Always. A cold laugh echoed through the forest. The dark figure stepped forward, and Leora gasped. It was massive, taller than any man, draped in swirling shadow. Its eyes glowed amber, the same color as Kale's when the curse stirred.
"You all brave little one,"
It said, voice like dry leaves rustling. "But bravery alone cannot save you. He belongs to me, Bay, and so do you." Kale's golden light flared, and he stepped in front of Leora. Brain.
"I belong to no one," he said, his voice steady. "And I will protect her, even if it costs me my life." The shadow recoiled, hissing, and the forest seemed to grow darker, the trees bending toward them as if to trap them. Leora felt a surge of fear, but also a surge of something else, a warmth that started in her chest and spread outward. The power she had felt before, the strange energy that had awakened in Kale when they first met, surged through her now, responding to his courage. "I am not afraid of you," Leora said, stepping forward. "You have no power over me, Bay." "And you have no power over him. The dark figure advanced, twisting, writhing, feeding on the doubt and fear around them.
The air grew thick, heavy, and hard to breathe. Kale's golden light blazed brighter, a shield against the shadows. "We fight together," he said, and their hands clasped tightly. The energy between them pulsed, like two stars colliding, illuminating the forest with golden light. The shadow screeched, recoil after recoil, unable to touch them.
"You are stronger together," the spirit hissed, "but strength will not save you."
One must fall. Kyle's face hardened.
No.
If we fall together. But we will not let you win.
Leora felt the energy of the forest respond to her courage. She lifted her free hand and the light around them surged, washing over the twisted roots and trees. The shadow shrieked, unable to resist, and for the first time, Kael looked at her with awe. "You," he whispered. "You are incredible."
We are incredible, Leora said. Together.
The shadow lashed out, tendrils of darkness snapping toward them, but they moved as one, stepping into the light, their bond a shield stronger than the curse's power. Kael's golden eyes met hers, and she saw not just fear, but trust, love, and hope. And then, with a sound like breaking stone, the dark figure began to shatter, pieces of shadow scattering into the mist. Its voice echoed one last time, weak and fading. "This
Is not over. I will return."
Kale's knees buckled, and Leora caught him, holding him close as his golden eyes dimmed to their normal color. The curse had weakened, retreating into the shadows of the world, but the forest remained alive, quiet but watchful.
Bay. They collapsed to the ground together, breathing heavily, hearts pounding in unison. Leora rested her head against Kale's shoulder, feeling the warmth of life and courage flowing between them. Birth. For a moment, there was nothing but the quiet, the trees, and their shared relief.
"You saved me," Kael whispered.
"And I saved you. But more than that, you changed something inside me. Something I thought I could never overcome."
You didn't need saving, Leora said softly.
We saved each other, and the curse, it cannot hold us now, not while we are together.
Bray. Kale smiled faintly, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "I never believed in ordinary people doing extraordinary things," he admitted.
But you have shown me I was wrong.
The forest around them began to shift, softening, as if recognizing their victory. The shadows receded, the twisted roots no longer threatening, and the whispers faded into the rustle of leaves. The air felt lighter, warmer, as though the forest itself approved of their courage. But even as relief washed over them, Kale's expression darkened. "Psst. We cannot stay here," he said quietly. "The curse, it may return. And the city, the court, they will never forgive a commoner being this close to a prince." Leora nodded, understanding the truth.
Then we return together, she said.
Whatever comes, we face it as one. I am not leaving you. Kyle's hand found hers again, the golden glow of his eyes flickering softly in the dim light. "Together," he said. The journey back through the forest was quieter, less dangerous, but the weight of what they had faced lingered. Every shadow seemed a memory of the trials they had overcome, every rustle of leaves a reminder of the curse's threat, and yet they walked side by side, stronger, more connected than ever. When they reached the edge of the forest, the first rays of dawn were breaking over the city. Light spilled across the rooftops, chasing away the shadows of night. Leora and Kale paused, looking at the city together, hearts still racing from the trials of the night. "We did it," Leora said softly. "We really did it." Kale nodded, his golden eyes now calm, almost serene. "Yes," he said, "but this is only the beginning. There are still shadows in the world, still dangers, and still the court, which does not forgive easily. Then we face them too," she said, "together." Kale looked at her, awe and admiration in his gaze. "I never imagined that someone like you could change everything," he said. "I was born into power, into a life of duty and fear. But you make me feel alive. Not just powerful, but human." Her heart fluttered at his words.
And you make me brave, she admitted softly.
"I would not have survived any of this, without you by my side." For a moment they simply stood there, holding hands, the city stretching before them like a living kingdom of both danger and hope. The bond between them was stronger than the curse, stronger than the fear, and more enduring than the shadows that haunted Kale's bloodline. Suddenly, a distant voice called from the city. "Baz!" The king's voice, booming and commanding, echoed through the morning air. "Kale! Leora, return at once!" Kyle's expression tightened, his jaw set. "The court awaits," he said. "We cannot avoid it any longer. But whatever comes, we face it together." Leora nodded, her grip on his hand firm. "Together," she said. They walked back into the city, heads high, hearts strong, ready to face the court, the king, and the lingering shadows of the curse. They had fought, they had survived, and they had grown together. And no matter what awaited them in the golden halls of the palace, they knew one truth that would never falter. They were stronger together than the darkness could ever hope to be. The city held its breath as they entered the gates, and somewhere in the shadows the curse stirred again, whispering of power and revenge. But Kale and Leora walked forward, hand in hand, unafraid. They had faced the forest, the curse, and the unknown, and emerged not just alive, but transformed. And in that transformation was hope, courage, and a bond that would endure no matter what storms still lay ahead. For the first time, Leora understood. She was not just a poor waitress. She was the one who had faced darkness and stood beside a prince. And Kale, the Alpha King's son, was not just a cursed heir. He was a man who had found his heart in the strength and courage of another. Backed. Together, they would shape the world, one choice at a time.